I'm very passionate about this topic, especially with the day and age we live in. I feel like there's only two real saviors in town for humanity, which are one, psychedelics, and two, Kundalini awakening. I feel like it's going to be such a pivotal part of humanity's awakening is that as our planet is shifting like it is and the vibration, the frequency is increasing, more people's Kundalinis are going to start to pop as they seem to be doing right now. And because of that, we're going to need better and more resources to help people understand this phenomenon and how to facilitate it and ground it. So for me, it began in 2019 to 2020. I started having what I call Kundalini symptoms. And I didn't know what it was at the time, but some weird symptoms were going on. And I started researching stuff of, okay, is this an ascension symptom or what's going on? And I found, some forums on Kundalini. I was like, oh yeah, I've heard about Kundalini awakenings, but I never really understood it. And I got really passionate about it to the point that I was reading every book I could find on the subject, read every Gopi Krishna book and so many more, and started to understand it also from a kind of law of one lens. I don't know how familiar you are with the law of one.
I've heard you speak about it and other people speak about it, but I haven't dived in fully to the teachings.
Okay. Are you familiar with the densities model at all?
It was a question that I had here with the density versus dimension as well, which okay. I'm intrigued in. Because that'd be a great to get into the density, but also what is Kundalini, and I'm interested to know what your symptoms were as well, because I'm sure people listening today might be experiencing some of those things.
Yeah. Well, this is all going to tie in together really well.
Okay.
Because the densities will help you understand how I came to see Kundalini and to see it from a more like metaphysical lens. It's really pretty amazing. So in the law of one, Ra, who's the entity being channeled, they're questioning Ra about this term that they use called densities. And so Ra explains how the universe is sort of a progressive sequence of the evolution of consciousness through these 7 density levels. And so the 7 densities correlate to our 7 chakras, our 7 energy centers. And so they're kind of like the chakras of the universe. You can think of it that way. And what they are is like the color wheel begins at red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. The color wheel is actually also a depiction of the way consciousness evolves and moves through stages, kind of like colors. So the first density correlates to the root chakra and is red. And that's the density of beingness or just existing, pure existence. So consciousness spends a few billion years in space-time existing as the 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, space. And so those 5 elements interact for billions of years, right? Until planets form around stars and harden and solidify and oceans form and land. And then once those 5 elements have made a kind of stable structure, such as a planet, then consciousness moves into the second density, which is the sacral chakra, orange ray level. And that is the density of awareness and movement in the environment. So anything that has the ability to move around and interact in some kind of intelligent way with its environment is a second density life form. So think about, microbial life is where that would have began, kind of in the oceans or whatever. And then that evolved into plants, insects, sea life, and animals. That whole spectrum is second density. So it's a really big spectrum, but you see how consciousness really levels up in how many different variables it has to deal with. In the first density, it's just the 5 elements interacting. Second density, now you're a plant in the soil. You got to put down roots and gain nutrients and grow and survive. And as an insect, as an animal, you're trying to not be eaten, and you got to reproduce. Like so many more variables in that second density. Well, eventually consciousness makes another level up into the third density, which correlates to the solar plexus chakra, the yellow ray. And that's, as we know, the chakra where the ego is finally created. And so the third density of consciousness is the density of self-awareness, where consciousness has gained enough experience in reality that now it can actually become self-aware. And that idea of I am, I exist is born in the mind. And so that's human beings, right? That's where humans are on that spectrum of third density. And so third density is, according to the law of one, the most challenging and difficult density level of the seven, because it's the density where the belief in separation is created. So if I exist, then I am this body, right? I'm the body is the belief. That means that I'm not you and you're not me. So you're a potential threat to my survival. You're a potential object I can acquire or possess or enslave, right? So in third density is where war and slavery and genocide and all these terrible things happen as consciousness is trying to learn and understand oneness. So third density goes on for a certain period of time, as we've seen it on our planet, until eventually consciousness increases its frequency enough to say, okay, it's true that we're all in seemingly different bodies, but it's becoming more clear that we are all of the same sort of essence or energy. You know, we're all one in some kind of universal way. And if we treat each other like we're one with each other, and we love each other, and we work together as brothers and sisters, then wow, life gets really good really fast. And that's the fourth density of the heart chakra, which is the density of love and understanding. So back to Kundalini, we are in that position now where humanity is transitioning from the third density level to a fourth density level or planet. So we are, as we're all witnessing right now, trying to learn how to be one with each other and not be separate anymore. You know, the internet and so much technology like social media is joining humanity together, and we're kind of working out our differences. We're trying to overcome the whole enslavement game that's been played on our planet for so long. So there's a lot of big catalysts that humanity has to work through, but we are becoming a fourth density civilization where the awareness of oneness will be absolutely normal at a certain point, maybe in a few thousand years or something, but that's where we're headed. So what a Kundalini awakening is that every density level also has a corresponding energy body that has to come into activation to bring your consciousness to that density level. So the root chakra has the red ray body, the sacral chakra has the orange ray body, the solar plexus has the yellow ray body, and that's the one we're seeing right now on camera. This is our yellow ray body. And then the fourth density has the green ray body of the heart. And it's a much, much higher frequency, just like every density is. And the best way to understand what a density is if you think about a photon vibrating, and I have a photon over here that vibrates at 100 times per second. And then I have a photon on this side that vibrates 1,000,000 times per second. Well, this photon obviously has a lot more density of light than this one does, right? There's a lot more light in this container over here. And so the more light that there is in a given space, the more information there is, because light is information. And so the more information is there, the more ability consciousness has to express itself. So as I kind of walked you through the first four densities, you can see that the densities model shows you the ability consciousness has to express itself at any given stage. So that's why your dog or your cat, they're a second density creature. So they have a very obviously different state of consciousness than you do, right? They can't talk with verbal language because they're not self-aware like you are conceptually. They can't formulate words and make meaning out of them because they're a second density life form. So the consciousness at their level can't move fast enough to process that much information. So we are moving from a third to a fourth density state. And what we've traditionally called a Kundalini awakening is actually the awakening of our fourth density energy in the nervous system, coming into activation and moving up the spine towards the higher chakras. And as we know, the higher chakras are the spiritual chakras that open up spiritual awareness and things like that. So basically, when a person has cultivated a certain level of spiritual development or a profound inner desire, let's say, a passion to know truth, to know God, to pursue something they love, anything like that can spark that dormant energy to awaken. And it actually literally begins transforming the nervous system from the inside out to a fourth density level, because these energies like love and bliss and joy, they're very high vibrational frequencies that a third density nervous system just doesn't quite have the bandwidth to sustain for very long. So we may have an experience of bliss that lasts for 20 minutes, an hour, something like that. And then we sort of crash back down to our default mode network of ego consciousness. Well, that's because our nervous system literally can't process that level of energy for very long. So the nervous system has to be upgraded to increase its capacity and sort of like have the RPMs, right, to process that energy with.
So do you feel then the evolution of consciousness is the evolution of the nervous system ultimately?
Yeah, in a way it is. The way I see it is that the nervous system does not produce consciousness or conduct consciousness, but it actually limits consciousness. Because we know consciousness is one and it's universal. So it's everywhere. It's omnipresent. Everything is consciousness. So if we don't limit consciousness to some finite point, how could you ever have an experience, right? Like you could not experience the whole universe simultaneously. That wouldn't be an experience. It would be like the Om sound, Om, like that's what it would be like, right? Just too much going on at once. So consciousness has to limit itself into singular forms to have this experience you and I are having. And the nervous system is like the medium through which consciousness limits itself. So think about a nervous system like a funnel. A third density nervous system looks like this, and a fourth density nervous system looks like that. So you can take in more of reality, more of those higher vibrations. You can actually live in them, which is why when Kundalini finally makes its ascension to the crown chakra and stays there and doesn't go back down anymore, those people describe, you're living in bliss all the time. You're living in that awareness of oneness and love all the time.